Projekt Guru.
Всем привет! С вами Zak Novak на радиостанции Novorossia Rocks. Welcome to Novorossia Rocks Radio Station. This is Zak Novak, your American in downtown Donetsk. Program is called Projekt Guru, and Guru's in the house as always. Andre, my engineer, day off. Let's get right to it. Nazi Ukraine junta once again unleashes heavy weapons fire on civilian areas. According to reports from the Donetsk People's Republic, military on Thursday said Nazi Ukrainian forces fired 76 shells at the DPR territory over the last 24 hours. Shellings by the fascist Ukrainian forces started about 6:45 p.m. and ended at 1:15 a.m. A total of 23 shells of 82 caliber and 53 mortars of 120 caliber. That's, again, I repeat, 53 from the 120s were fired. Nazi Ukrainian forces also used tank fire, heavy machine guns, grenade launchers, and other types of weapons. According to the source, they opened fire at the settlements of Dokuchayevsk, Nikolaevka, and Sahanka from their positions in Avdiivka, Shirokino, Bedanskoye, and Novotroitskoye. The participants of the contact group on settling the situation in Donbass region agreed on observing Easter ceasefire starting from April 30th. However, the Donbass republics and Kiev forces continue accusing each other of violating the ceasefire regime in Donbass. But we all know it's the Kiev junta who are doing the provocations and the war crimes, genocide. Guru, check this out, really cool. Sooner or later, the Nazi Kiev junta will have to negotiate with the republics of Donetsk and Lugansk. Sooner or later, the Ukraine side will have to sit down at the negotiating table with the leaders of the republics in Donetsk and Lugansk as they were elected by Donbass residents and enjoy their support, a Russian political analyst said on Wednesday. In the process of peace settlement, the Ukrainian side will have to speak with DPR leader Alexander Sakharchenko and LPR leader Igor Plotnitsky. They were elected in direct general polls. They put their signatures under the Minsk agreements. According to sociologists, they enjoy support from the majority of the residents. Over the 2 years of the Republic's existence, the DPR and LPR leaders have established themselves as real leaders of their republics whose political positions are only enhancing. And finally, both Sakharchenko and Plotnitsky have been recognized by Russia as legitimate representatives of Donbass. Please, everyone, listen. And finally, both Sakharchenko and Plotnitsky have been recognized by Russia as legitimate representatives of Donbass. Russian President's aide Vladislav Surkov told this unequivocally at a recent meeting with experts. He said Sakharchenko and Plotnitsky are sure to continue working until their office expires in 2018 and may run for a second term. According to experts, reports about possible resignation of Donbass Republic's leaders are nothing but allegations of the Ukraine authorities, which are suffering from an acute feeling of defeat in the face of dialogue with uncomfortable and strong opponents who have managed to defend their independence with weapons in their hands. Guru, really sad news here, and just the monstrosity from the Kiev regime and the people, the fascist people there. Nazi Kiev will pay dearly, killing 91-year-old woman of the Patriotic War, Lyubov Pechko, a veteran of the Great Patriotic War who was attacked by nationalists during the Victory Day celebrations on May 9th in eastern Ukraine, that's the Donbass region, has died. The Odessa-based news portal reported on Friday. The 91-year-old woman, Lyubov Pechko, died the day after the attack when the nationalists sprayed her with a Soviet-era green antiseptic known as Zelonka. The incident occurred during the procession in Slaviansk in the Donetsk region, marking the Soviet Union's victory over Nazi Germany, the information center reported. Pechko is a hero of the Great Patriotic War who took part in liberating Belarus. She and some other veterans were doused with the green liquid when the nationalists attacked MP from the opposition bloc Natalia Korolevskaya, also throwing eggs and flour. Some 5,000 people took part in this peaceful rally. Nazi Ukraine hackers have released all of our information, journalists of Novorossia and other news agencies. A group of Ukrainian hackers has published the names and contact information of thousands of journalists who have reported from rebel-controlled eastern Ukraine, raising concerns about the safety of the journalists, including many from international media organizations. The hackers said they had gained access to computers used by the Russia-backed separatists to register journalists working in the conflict zone and felt it was necessary to publish the list because these journalists collaborate with fighters from terrorist organizations. The New York-based Committee to Protect Journalists issued a statement on Wednesday condemning the publication of the list, which contains 7,000 entries and data on about 4,500 journalists, including their cell phone numbers and email addresses. Publishing journalists' private contact details puts them at risk, Nina Ognianova, the CPJ Europe and Central Asia Program Coordinator, said in a statement. At worst, this action could be read as thinly veiled call to target them. Ukraine's Prosecutor General Office said Wednesday that it has opened an investigation into the publication of the hacked data, which it said had already led to some journalists being threatened. A letter signed by about 40 Ukrainian foreign journalists said some of those on the list had received threatening emails and phone calls, while a broader concern was that some Ukrainian politicians were now calling for them to be considered enemies of Ukraine and barred from working in the country. The Associated Press was among the many media organizations whose journalists were on the list. Providing news coverage is not the same as supporting any one side. Quite the opposite, said John Denizevsky, AP Vice President for International News. News gatherers for legitimate news organizations are objective. They cover and share information that the public needs. Ukrainians who believe in freedom should forcibly defend the value of news coverage to tell Ukraine's story. These hackers apparently have misunderstood the role journalism plays in a free society. The hackers posted the list on a website called Mirotvorets, or Peacekeeper, on Saturday. It attracted attention after a member of Ukraine's parliament, Anton Gerashenko, praised the hackers in a Facebook posting on Tuesday. Gerashenko said that the list, which also included the names of 120 people working in the separatist propaganda department, showed that Ukraine needs to do much more to counter propaganda from Russia and its puppets. He called for imposing controls over television content to prevent the distribution of information that could undermine Ukraine's sovereignty, territorial integrity, and on the accreditation process for foreign journalists, particularly those from Russia. The U.S. State Department expressed concern about the hacking. Hey Guru, continuing on that last story with all our journalists here in Novorossia being branded as terrorists by the Kiev junta regime, I posted that early this morning, and you know what? With all the pressure and the pressure worldwide, fascist Ukraine will have to shut down website Mirotvorets, Peacekeeper, due to the pressure worldwide. Listen to this. Ukraine's website that earlier this week released information on more than 4,000 journalists from around the world accredited by the Donetsk People's Republic has announced it is shutting down. The website called Mirotvorets Peacekeeper said that the move comes taking into consideration the reaction that the publication of the list of journalists has caused. The closure has been also demanded by Ukraine's Human Rights Commissioner Valeria Lutkovskaya, the EU and anti-Ukrainian journalists in the country, it said. Ukrainian MP Anton Gerashenko has confirmed the report on his Facebook page. He said a group of anonymous hackers, the Patriots of Ukraine, has decided to close the Mirotvorets project after a criminal case was opened against its staff. This came upon a request of a group of Ukrainian and foreign journalists and amid the witch hunt launched by some Ukrainian media outlets. The journalists on the list published by the website on May 10th work for RT, TASS, BBC, CNN, Bloomberg, Al Jazeera, AP, newspapers, and other mass media outlets, including us, the proud Novorossia Today. The information includes mobile phone numbers, email addresses, and dates of stay on the territory uncontrolled by Kiev, which of course is Novorossia. The portal accused the journalists of complicity to terrorist organizations. The leak has caused enormous public outcry. The U.S. Department of State reminded that working conditions for journalists in the conflict zones are extreme. Russia's Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova dismissed the publication as the abuse of declared freedoms in favor of political ambitions. OSCE representative on freedom of the media Dunya Mijatovic also expressed deep concerns over the leak. Major ceasefire violations by the Turkish-backed terrorists in Syria, with al-Nusra also arriving from Turkey. Terrorist organizations breached the cessation of hostilities agreement in Syria 9 times in the last 24 hours, raising the total number of breaches to 517 since last February, the Russian Coordination Center said. The cessation of hostilities agreement, which came into effect on 27th of February, does not include Jabhat al-Nusra, ISIS, and other groups listed by the UN as terrorist organizations. The Russian Coordination Center, based in Hamem Air Base, said in a statement on Wednesday that militants of the so-called Sultan Murad Brigade shelled al-Sheikh Masoud neighborhood in Aleppo with rocket launchers and machine guns 3 times, leaving 8 civilians killed, while the so-called Jais al-Islam shelled al-Zahra neighborhood in the western outskirts of Aleppo with mortar rounds. The center detailed that terrorists of the so-called Ahrar al-Sham fired mortar shells on military positions in the vicinity of Abu Risheh village in northern Latakia, adding that terrorists of the so-called Jais al-Islam fired mortar rounds at military posts in the surroundings of Harsatan town in countryside of Damascus. Local sources in Aleppo countryside confirmed the arrival of around 100 terrorists of Jabhat al-Nusra from Turkey to Kafar Hamra village in the northern countryside of Aleppo, the Russian center said, adding that a number of trucks loaded with local handmade military ammunition containing chlorine gas coming from Idlib arrived at the northern Aleppo countryside areas during the last 24 hours. Information released. 2 military bases established as U.S. fascist forces prepare ground invasion. Adding to the details about the U.S. deployment of special forces to Libya to prepare for a ground invasion of the country, officials today revealed that 2 military outposts have been established in the country since late 2015, each containing fewer than 25 troops. Details are scant, but the bases are said to be located near Misrata and Benghazi, respectively. It is noteworthy that neither of these areas are under the control of either of the UN-backed governments, though Misrata is largely aligned with the Tripoli Parliament, a third government that the UN doesn't recognize. Benghazi, by contrast, is mostly under the control of an Islamist Shura Council which expelled ISIS and other foreign Islamist groups. The city is intermittently attacked by forces aligned with the Tobruk Parliament, but so far without much progress. Neither base is particularly close to ISIS-controlled territory in Libya, which is centered around the city of Sirte. The Pentagon has previously acknowledged that there are unspecified number of troops in Libya and that they are trying to make contact with potential allies in the country. In practice, the U.S. and other Western nations have shown eagerness to ally with new unity government, though the government controls no territory, has no real military forces of its own, and its value seems to be limited to giving the imprimatur to a Western invasion. As ceasefire expires in Aleppo, war resumes with Assad forces pushing al-Qaeda back. An extended ceasefire over the area in and around the major Syrian city of Aleppo expired today and almost immediately saw the resumption of fighting, with military forces pushing into the Handarat area north of the city. Reports say that airstrikes were launched against the area as troops pushed their way in, seizing parts of the area. 5 rebels were killed according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. Lebanon's Hezbollah issued a statement claiming the rebels had violated the ceasefire before the push. The Syrian army reported gains in the area, while the rebels insisted that they later reversed those gains and that no serious territory had exchanged hands. Handarat is part of a main route into the parts of Aleppo held by al-Qaeda, and taking the area would likely be a prelude to a push into the city. Aleppo has been contested throughout the civil war, and in recent weeks the fighting had become increasingly bloody, with Syrian forces and al-Qaeda exchanging artillery fire into one another's civilian neighborhoods, killing hundreds of bystanders. Guru, listen to this. Ukrainian snipers were ordered to practice on citizens who were wearing the St. George ribbon. Kiev Nazi snipers who were deployed to the touchline at the Gorlovka direction were ordered to target civilians who were wearing ribbons of St. George. The Donetsk People's Republic Deputy Commander-in-Chief Edward Basurin reported. The fact of shooting at soldiers and civilians with ribbons of St. George was fixed in the settlement of Luganskoye. The shooting was conducted and given the green light by the commander of the Nazi 1st Motorized Brigade. American-backed terrorist group ISIS kills 96 at a crowded food market in Iraq. 3 major car bombings across the Iraqi capital city of Baghdad, all of which have been claimed by American-backed terrorist group ISIS, tore through neighborhoods in the city, killing at least 96 people and wounding 165 others, many severely. The toll is expected to rise. The first and largest of the bombings took place in the Shiite area of Sadr city, targeting a crowded food market and killing at least 66 people. The truck was said to be loaded with fruit and vegetables to disguise the explosives within. 2 other bombings carried out in the afternoon in the northwest Kadimiyah neighborhood and the Jamia neighborhood, killing 30 more people, including at least 5 police. The rest of the slain all appear to be civilians. Iraqi officials downplayed the attacks, insisting that they are meant to distract from ISIS' recent losses in the field, which in the last month consisted of a single, sparsely populated village, which was captured earlier this week with limited fighting. Hey everyone, that ends our program, but listen here, being part of 2 great celebrations, feeling so patriotic, being at both parades in Lugansk and Donetsk, the feel here is unbelievable. Just everyone understand out there, the bloodshed around the world, but it's not going to stop. It will not stop the people here in Novorossia. It's just a proud people, a proud country. And everyone, please, as I stress always, stay safe, be on alert, have a great weekend, and see you back on Monday. Bye-bye, folks.